Previously on Doctor Who.
Drink here then? There we are, love. How's that?
Welcome to the 1980s, a dire decade for most things, but also sci-fi. What's that, Mr. Turner? You don't want cult staple sci-fi show Doctor Who? Oh, right. Well, you should probably give it to somebody else before something bad happens.
How many Nyman have you seen today?
Wow. Strong start. Actually, this is a 1, but I'm gonna bump it up to an ironic 7. The Horns of Nimon is, you know that kid that split their trousers in school? Like, he's a nice enough kid and he's trying, but we all know there's nothing he can do to get past the pants splitting thing. He's the kid who split his trousers. There's no getting past that. This is the metaphor, and it's only the 5th most embarrassing thing in this serial. Shada! The closest we've ever come to Hitchhiker's Guide, which admittedly makes for an unfair comparison. It strikes a balance of keeping a genuinely imposing fashionista villain and also letting Baker run comedic rings around him. Endlessly pretty, endlessly witty, endlessly creative, and endlessly endless. The budget runs out fast on this one, and it badly needs a 3rd location. Oh, 7s all round. The Ledger Hive is a genuinely oddball political story with a surprising trove of cool, unique sci-fi lore. And then it drops him on you.
You mentioned for Marcy?
Look, it's a 10 out of 10 when he's on screen. If you want to give it the time and the benefit of the doubt, it's a little Malcolm Hulkish even. Genuinely eccentric TV, just don't ask me about any of this shit. Meglos, it's tensionless, isn't it? Sorry, let me just... Perfect. When I think of Meglos, which, let's face it, isn't often, my first thought is, ah! But my second will be how the story is shot. It looks really nice. Even convincing model shots with a tiny little Tom Baker superimposed. But like, really ruminates on it. Is there even a companion in this one? What does the Doctor do in Meglos? I rewatched it yesterday and I am not sure. I'm sure there's no rule against Doctor Who being themeless, but it might have helped.
Hey, Mr. J&T, I'm just a little whippersnapper. In between science class, I wrote you a script.
If I wrote a script at age 17, it certainly wouldn't have been this high concept. A powerless looping society trapped in a wildlife cycle. Really stunning direction, and tight character beats so good you can actually pinpoint the moment that Ward and Baker's marriage ended. One of the last classic stories to be funny. And how much longer of this video is there? Oh dear. You know, we never did get the episode where Adric burst into a horde of spiders. Ah, which of your wishes for the gift of immortality, my friends? No, not me. I mean, State of Decay has cartoon vampires in it, so I like it. But take them out and it's still a fine techno-gothic remix. Even the obligatory storming of the castle was visibly going through the motions. It's in the wrong season and it's late to the party, but it's still very welcome to come in. Engage metaphysical big brain mode. Warrior's Gate is a 9, but a 10 for set design. Just don't put anything there. Look how tidy this story is. Fighting the BBC at every turn, Gate dares the show to be more than a studio deadline. It's an interesting compromise between concept and broadcast reality, but the attempt to try is what makes it such melancholic magic. Blending a blurry mix between quantum theory and Taoism is actually more poetic and coherent than you would think is possible. And then, the funny one, where the Master pretends to be a statue for a few decades. You know who makes this one? Ainley. Tramus makes such an impression in the sidecast that it's a shame it's his daughter that ends up sticking around. I grew up with the haunting, regal reverie of this one, but none of it lies in the script, does it? I think it's going for an oblique fairy tale vibe. Tom, on the other hand, has transcended truly impressive levels of not giving a fuck. I'm Chrising on that bid till I meet. Top premise, Doctor, but no character work when the classic show needs it most. 4 Tegan and Nyssa have a hard go of it in this one, and it's blank stares central. Even Adric should be happier about a math epic. God, I used to rate this one as a kid, but all I've got is 2 episodes of Moody TARDIS Tag and the sterile bid-mead fantasy of some world. Tom's checked out early, and thank God Ainley's here to inject some energy. A-star music and imagery, but Bidders was the wrong guy for this handover. Ever noticed how these 2 Bidmead scripts are the same? fluffing around doing TARDIS chess under threat by the Master before exiting into a high-concept reality trap with no time left to explore it. But despite the stakes, nothing happens. It's all environments and plots. No humanity to it. 4 to Doomsday. So it's studio-bound, stuffy, problematic, and a tad pretentious, but Doomsday is still overhated. The Fifth Doctor puppy energy is a total steal. I think he's better here than Androzani even. But the real inspiration here is a distrusting TARDIS team, working against one another. Look at that! J&T bitching with a purpose. Don't get used to that. Look, I've put in the homework on Kinder. There's just not much behind Tegan's possession. But it's still more than they normally try. It's a somewhat faux intellectual story made by a true intellectual writer. A Buddhist mood board of things Chris Bailey liked, conflicting with Saywood's harsh science sensibilities. There's so much of actors making big acting decisions, and I think they're improved by embracing the theatre artifice of it all.
A real childhood classic.
Yeah, this is what happens when a side character is so funny he hijacks the entire story. The episode-to-episode events might be blurry, but you can bet I remember every Richard Mace line. Really good stab at a historical too. This run is so emotionally detached that Five cares more about his screwdriver than he does Adric. Strike me pink! If even a dumb, standardless kid like me felt cheated for purchasing Black Orchid at full retail value, we've got a problem. Not a Doctor Who script, not really a fun hangout beach episode, and certainly not doing an Agatha Christie mystery. Nonsensical, loose tropes drift in the ether for 45 minutes. Every character seems drunk or insane, but really it's just Tegan on the drinks. Look, it's decent shipping fodder if nothing else, but a change of pace? Yeah, maybe. From good stories. An 8. Excellent. Earthshock is a fairly standard adventure, if not for the powerhouse of truly great Cyberman reveals. Beryl Reed, and an all-time first in killing the kid. But before that, it's the one time Davison gets some real character moments. The last-minute bonding session with Adric is tragic, and what could have made this era really sing? Still don't quite recall how the cave plot connects. Good old Marine, cyber-shooting claustrophobic action. An absolute joy to grow up with, tense enough for a new viewer, and gutsy enough to end up being completely over-mythologized. Time Flight. The single biggest tragedy in Concorde's history. Google it. Arc of Infinity. An embarrassment to everyone and everything in it. The cast, the Time Lords, the visual effects, the villain, even Amsterdam. I just imagine Omega creeping around the red light districts. Even that location shooting doesn't elevate it for me. The driest Gallifrey outing yet. The sheer screen time that Chicken Man gets. It beggars belief. The only way to experience this one is with the Janet Fielding commentary on. Sneak dance. The gay horror is off the charts. If we go any darker or camper into this time warp, we'll break the meter. We'll kill Mary Whitehouse. Hey, I could list all the reasons this is better than Kinder in bullet point form, but is it not enough to just be incredibly attracted to Doc Martin? Oh, the editing sucks though. Choppy storytelling, I guess. So there's that. Mordrin Undead needed to be shorter, or weirder, or look, hey, just better. I think this was one to junk the moment William Russell pulled out of the project. The one that introduces us to the most promising companion does him no favours. Tacky to look at and painful to listen to, Black Guardian and Mordrin are the two weakest villains since the box. I died for 50 minutes in 2018 and this is what hell looked like.
Oh, I guess I should leave the show now, Doctor. If only I felt any kind of way about it.
You'd have to pay me to have a strong opinion on Terminus, Nissa's swan song. What's there to say? Is it dreamlike or is it sleepy? Is it sad and haunting or the one with the big talking dog? I want to celebrate him, I do, but the drowsy inaction and crap acting make me feel like this massive scope adventure deserved better than what the 80s could reasonably provide. But then, as if disproving that, is the hidden miracle of enlightenment. Everybody is in different shows, but it's so haunting and forbidden feeling. So well directed to the point it feels like magic again, to me, as a cynical adult. Transcendent TV that still makes time for the panto. There's an absolute anticlimax of a part 4, but I guess the paltry series arc has to come first. Yes, it was I, Doctor. The bastard in the fake beard. Huh. Really? King's Demons is a mercifully brief palate cleanser in between two Doctor Who titans. Chameleon might be held together with paper mache and Ainley's sporting his worst disguise yet, but sometimes it's just nice to see Tegan in a medieval castle, in a nice dress. It's Black Orchid with a pulse, and a crap sword fight. This is the most anybody has thought about King's Demons.
Say it with me.
No, not the mind probe. It's very fitting that Barusa collects Doctor Who figures in this one, as the serial seems to have been written exclusively with them. The sheer inherent charm of the programme shines through and holds together this crossover production, and honestly most of the costumes, from falling apart. Its iconography, growing legs and walking off. I think the key to it working at all is just really great pairings. Warriors of the Deep. Guys, if things are this bad behind the scenes, just take a sick day. On the page, Warriors of the Deep is a bloodthirsty, competent Cold War story. On screen, damning disaster that actively damaged the show's future. Any good in there is made to look comical for even trying. It's all over once they walk past the convenient lizard-killing gas 10 minutes in. Look, I've read the target. There's good in him. I can change him. The Awakening, ironically. No, you see, there's so much to remember in this one. And it's not just the giant carnival face. There's historical reenactments and a goblin goob and It means back with some old boys retro sci-fi. If only it were exciting in any way. Not too dissimilar to a Hartnell story, really. The sets are obviously indoors for outdoors, but they're refreshingly alien again. It's just that these aliens begin and end with, gravity slug. No frills, no thrills. Frontios. Davros started the AIDS crisis. Resurrection of the Daleks is a truly demented collection of Sayward grim visuals and half-baked ideas that wormed their way into my 10-year-old brain. Therapy. God, please. Doctor Who has stopped being fun. Does Tegan even realise what she's lampshading here? The 20-odd subplots are potentially interesting, but altogether, lay it out and it's a garage sale mess. Tegan's exit remains my favourite we have ever seen. Master Small. I've watched Planet of Fire 5 times, for reasons. And for the life of me, I cannot follow it. Turlo deserves better. Ainley's been made small again. Now, literally. And he's got even further to fall yet, but this is an all-time low. What a nothing story. What is it with the quality dipping whenever the 5th Doctor's on location abroad? So you see, I'm not gonna let you stop me now! If only that was true Davison. Truly striking gold in the 11th hour. Caves of Androzani is relentless, powerful, near Shakespearean stuff. The 80s are grisly, yeah, but this is the one true example of it paying off. It's a tone so impressionable that the EU and future takes on the 5th Doctor will rip it off forever. It shouldn't be this fun to flip between different kinds of evil normal men, but the pairing of director and performance-led priorities is so compelling. People squint and try to pretend the whole era was this, but really it was more like this. No, Androzani is special for good reason. A 2? A 2, Perry? A rare story that I deeply dislike, but still somewhat respect. You think Chibnall had balls? J&T is in his loud affronting era, and it might be what dissembles the show.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
You can see what he's going for, but this abrasive pairing are a match made in hell. Perry is not supposed to be the straight man. Bad villain, bad cliffhangers, bad first impression, by design, for some reason. Capaldi did it better, skill issue. Commander, Remember Tomb of the Cybermen? Ah, yes. We should do that again.
Call Mr. Levine.
So, it's good, but I feel embarrassed for liking it type good. The possibility of our new cyber leader Ian Levine penning as much as he claims he did is terrifying and very likely, because the nostalgia as narrative approach makes it so believable. Fans are beginning to inherit the show for better or for worse. Perry and Six are painfully abrasive again, and it doesn't really have any heart of its own. There's always something good happening. Cryons tell us, this scared Cyberman. The 80s are good to them. Vengeance on Varos. Yeah, it's one of the all-timers, but you're still a dirty perv for liking it. Reality TV meets the video nasty with a twisted counterculture point to make and real resentment for the British viewing public. It's merciless fetish art, mistakenly put out on BBC One. What's not to love? State-sanctioned executions for all. Colin Baker, stand against the wall, please. Mark the Rani. Bad, 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 bad. Los dos doctores ingleses. Why are you booing me? I'm right. My favourite doctor is in this, and it's still not worth the time. For the two doctors, I would make a lazy food analogy. There's enough of them in this never-ending six-parter. Too many threads, not enough points. And it just takes a millennia to get to any of its cheap selling points. The sun's out, but this is no less grim and upsetting than Varos. I wish they'd taken Fraser Hines with them. Troughton too, for that matter. If we're still sexually psychoanalyzing the Colin Baker years, then Timelash has a humiliation kink. Look, if you didn't want to make the episode, guys, we're not forcing you. Not one grounding, tasteful thing in the whole serial. It's a good placeholder for so bad it's good, since it's all so sincere. But it's a disaster that's instead so bad it's pitiable. So that's nearly a positive. I am so done with TARDIS bickering. Revelation of the Daleks! It suffers from nearly all of Resurrection's problems. Because it's the same story. A grim first half, thickly setting the scene for an hour. Endless duos of characters join the fray, only to be killed unceremoniously in a sudden slaughter. Is everything going alright at home, Mr. Sayward? This time, though, it does come together eventually. Cohesively, too. A real rockin', genuine slow burn. Davros listens to rock music. Colin Baker, you're under arrest for bad television. The invincible Rob Holmes goes out on an underrated high. A nonsense courtroom framing device does not know what it's doing, but Mysterious Planet does the most with it. A standard sci-fi cliche serial has been edited and censored in a playfully postmodern bit of genius. It looks cheap as sin, sure, and the introduction of glitz makes me want to take a shower, but this is some really incriminating evidence, Valiard. Good for us, though. Fun fact about Mind Warp. Episodes 2 and 3 remain missing from the BBC archive. Yes, it's true, nobody knows what transpires in those. Shockingly, Philip Martin is invited back for more of that close-to-the-mark 80s misery porn. A drunken Sixth Doctor turns on Perry, makes for unnerving scenery cheering, and hell, he'll need it to keep up with his new friends. Brian Blessed! And the Wolfman. Lots of surgical horror, and not knowing where you stand with any character in this. Colourful, horrid environment. I was shocked I was watching this at 11, honestly. And now, Your Honour, an overlit murder mystery with Bonnie Langford. If I were watching it on broadcast, I would be convinced she's the killer. It's her. She did it. Mel. But no, this is an actual cast member we're meant to actually like. Huh. It's all familiar and safely static until those cliffhangers kick in. Fire. Each of them. People say McCoy was getting good at the end of his run, but you know what? So was Baker. Guilty! Oh, the moment I realised as a boy that Doctor Who could just be bad. And there's no one to blame. It's just sad and mired in behind-the-scenes tragedy, and it's why I don't like to bash on the season too much. But this is the shark jump. Imagine the chairman of the Doctor Who Society's face. Have you ever considered it's really weird that in what could have been Doctor Who's final episode, everyone flees Robert Holmes' final script? They just abandon it, and it takes a cheap twist villain into a realm of time fillers and cheap tricks. This nosedive is in panic mode. It's slinging shit at the wall, but the tragic death of Holmes feels symbolic for this show. Right. Sorry, I was gone for a bit. I was on hiatus. They soft cancelled me, but you can't put a good show down. Time on the Rani, on the other hand, goes full unintentional self-parody mode with rubber monsters, quarries, and screaming. Fuck it to hell. It was genuinely brave for the now scrutinised series to broadcast exactly why it deserved to be cancelled. Look, stinkers can be fun. The Rani's Team Rocket plan is fun. This is just aggravating and sad. It thinks it's so cute. Early 7 is my favourite 7, but McCoy is awful here. It's worse than Twin Dam Dilemma. Of all the sci-fi to explore the socio-political significance of Thatcher's high-rises, this is certainly the most flamboyant. Breers doesn't get his dues. He's an unironically good villain. The perfectly grown, selectively bred prize pooch for fascism should be the ridiculous performance of a lifetime. Paradise Towers is the show's first evocative location in a good while. It would be challenging material if not for the theatrics and scenery chewing. Good scenery, mind. What other show? What other show would willingly put itself in these demented PBS sitcom shoes? Yes, it's boring and mad to do a dreary holiday camp in a show with a TARDIS. But low-res Wales is where Doctor Who is at home. There's not even any aliens in this one, they're all just Welsh. Balancing a lot of tones, musical styles, and disposable comedy side characters. I don't know what to do with this level of camp, honestly. So I made a fanfic instead. Ooh, wicked ace! Alright, thanks Miss Aldred. Could we get, another take? I can't tell if the plot is any good. I can't work out if the effects are good or bad. It's the most bravely competent setting this strange season has, but it's still such an odd series of compromises. I have a soft spot for Dragonfire, and the dragon, but I'd never ever show it to a non-fan. An absolutely adorkable entrance for Ace, from the poor acting to the convoluted infantilizing origin. Unlimited rice pudding, etc. Remembrance of the Daleks isn't even an official anniversary special, but its unquestioned appointed status as a touchstone cultural classic says it all. Iconic and fun for kids, but revealing depth to older viewers once they can pick up on the dog whistles. It's wobbly ambition that respects its audience. These cliffhangers make up most of Doctor Who's best ever moments.
Come with me, and you'll be in a land of candy ADHD.
We've got a licorice all sorts man, we've got tunnel goblins, we've got this and this. It's a big anti-fascist pantomime. Pink noir is the term coined by this Sugar Rush story. That doesn't take into account how cluttered, strange, and unpredictable it is. The Margaret Thatcher parallels are probably overstated, but the sheer audacity of it all is not. Let's radicalize these fucking kids with punk hair and sherbet. The new blood has arrived. And then they did this. A season full fucking flux worth of threats thrown into the blender. Rightfully overshadowed by an identical story that remembers interior meaning, there's a ton of action, outdoors, and jazz music, but this is as hollow and throwaway as it comes. Just when you start to get the prologue of a new idea emerging, it's over, it ends. Between this and Doctor in Distress, this show doesn't even know what to celebrate about itself anymore. A mad assortment of effects and tricks to balance out all the boring bits. We got wolves and clowns and the Kablam Man. But fuck the plot and our last remaining fan. But every time you drift off to nap, the story suddenly stops to rap. Battlefield. This one has its fans, but it feels like every story is trying to be an anniversary special now. Because maybe that history is all the show has left. Doctor Who comes upon its first genre play it perhaps can't pull off. The racist Ace scene goes nowhere, and there's more focus on the fucking car from yesterday than there is care for the story we're in now. Battlefield is when fan service falls apart. Dimensions in time, with some half-hearted fantasy elements thrown in. If this is what the Cartmore plan looks like, you know what? I'll pass. I want to be nastier, but I remember then, I do have a Doctor Who D&D podcast coming out. Ghost light. Dripping in tension. I love that Doctor Who managed an actual hardcore horror before it wrapped up. One that's truly freaky, and in many different ways. A really rather simple plot, made complicated by a bizarre edit. Its mystery and enigma ultimately adds to the strange appeal, but it cries out for a fourth part. Scared me shitless as a kid, and I'm still wary of it now. Every V&A writer is writing a sequel to either this or Fenric. Curse of Fenric. This one's a late-stage legend, and like a legend, you gotta give it a lot of leeway once it stops making sense. It's not overrated per se, but it's not exactly traditionally good writing either. Its world is dense and requires further reading, thanks to it being another Seven Tale that wraps up without letting the audience in on any key details. But if its production design, acting, and thick, doom-laden atmosphere are anything to go by, it's worth being kept in the dark, just this once. Hot take. If we fight like animals, dare say, we die like animals. Undoubtedly impactful to the revival, yeah, but this is a product of the Thatcher age. Fans who put it on a pedestal as the perfect ending to all Doctor Who are doing some serious legwork. It's very much of a time. It's a small rural oddity about cats and angry kids at the YMCA. I adore what it has to say about a society where people are expected to fend for themselves in Thatcher's Britain. But the closest it comes to a plot is this. Master. As laughable as the finale is, thank God it had the foresight to end like one. Little touches go far. Munro is an incredibly interesting writer. And at the end, why not? Let's do the Wilderness Years. A couple freebies. The TV movie. Almost a 101 on how not to handle a reboot. Alienating new viewers with convoluted lore and exposition, but leaving out the spark of what made the series so unique in the first place. Vague characters and vague stakes. It's a miracle that this production didn't find its audience. For all of its twee Hugh Grant nerdfish out of water material, it's shockingly derivative too. McGann is a beautiful young charm machine, and his casting alone almost makes the whole thing work. A comic relief for best case scenario, and the first most revealing of Moffat's Doctor Who scripts. He told us who he was and what he's about right away. Lovingly self-deprecating in an era that couldn't even reference Doctor Who in public without a serving of irony. It handles that part really well. It reads the room. Rowan Atkinson gets the brief entirely and could have done this incarnation for real with Moff's words in his mouth. Why is this master more believable than Sacha Dhawan's?
We've got a fantastic Doctor Who adventure.
Begone, this British concoction from hell! Soaps, Edmonds, The Rani. It's a half-remembered Five Doctors in the Rover's Returns gutter. It's my personal nightmare, made manifest, and the nation's just there in the 90s, laughing at it. It feels like a big practical joke on me. The only person I feel for is a hungover McCoy. You know what? Fuck charity. Mr. Blobby at least would have lightened things up. And lastly, I just watched this for the first time. Scream of the Shauker. Much like the Leakley Bible and other wilderness reimaginings, it's a bold vision. These days, Grant's Doctor might feel a bit generic and twee, but he's damaged goods. And I think he inspired the revival more than people let on. It's a little flash of a jaded and sharper take on the show. A flash animation, if you will. If it had continued, it would have gotten stranger and more obscure than the V&As in record time. Cornell should know better than having Time Lord DNA and willpower save the day. And there's a lot of uncertainty that leaks into the finished product. Line reads to animation. They weren't confident about this, and it shows. But maybe they should have been. Oh god. Oh god, the Titan has come!